In 2008, an unprecedented crisis hit the Irish economy caused by the greed of developers and bankers. They get bailed out, but ordinary people are still paying the price through the destruction of living standards, vital public services, and attacks on our rights.
I accept that there were failures in the political system. I accept that I have to take responsibility as a member of the governing party during that period for what happened. But let's be fair about it, we all partied.
I wish I could tell you that the budget won't impact on every citizen in need, but I can't.
Then suddenly, on the 11th of October 2014, Ireland changed. Enough was enough. From the communities themselves, ordinary working class people mobilised from all over the country on a huge and historic demonstration in Dublin against water charges.
Irish water will be free! Irish water will be free! We won't pay! Power! Power! Power to the people!
On the same day, the Dublin South West by-election also declared that resistance had arrived as Paul Murphy, the anti-water charges candidate, had sensationally beat all the main parties. These two blows against the austerity agenda opened up a period of months of intense activity that forced a retreat by the establishment on water charges and other austerity measures. As well as mass demonstrations, there were hundreds and hundreds of local activities. Communities around the country resisted the imposition of water meters by private contractors in the pay of Irish Water. These actions were often met by large mobilisations of the Gardaí and dozens of arrests. On the 15th of November 2014, a spontaneous protest of 500 people took place when word spread that the then Taoiseach Joan Burton was attending a function in Jobstown in Tallaght. There were no major incidents at the protest, although the Taoiseach was hit by a water balloon and was delayed by 2.5 hours. Yet the media went into overdrive, and the state ordered that hundreds of hours of CCTV and YouTube footage be trawled through in order to retrospectively find something the community of Jobstown could be charged with. Some young people have already been convicted in the Children's Court relating to this protest, and the trial of 7 out of the 18 adults will take place in the criminal courts on the 24th of April. False imprisonment, which the 7 people up in court in April are charged with, carries with it long prison terms, including the prospect of a life sentence. This is a very serious situation for the defendants, for the Jobstown community, and for democratic rights in this so-called republic.
Taoiseach Joan Burton was trapped in a car for over 2.5 hours today by water charge protesters in Dublin. The group prevented Miss Burton's car from leaving an event in Jobstown near Tallaght, with dozens of Gardaí called in before she was eventually transferred to another car and driven away.
I found out about the protest that morning at the local shop. There was a couple of other women there that were talking about it, how Joan Burton was coming up to Jobstown. I never thought I'd see Joan Burton up here in Jobstown, especially after coming into the community and giving false promises, looking for our votes. We gave her the votes and then she slapped it back in our faces.
I was one of the few people who was actually invited to the actual graduation, and I got the invitation, so as I say, I went up that morning at 11:30. It was supposed to kick off around 12 o'clock, and so I got a good view of everything up there, and I noticed that there was very, very little security. I think I only seen 2 policemen.
When I got there, there was roughly maybe 70 to 80 people there. People thought that sort of the arrogance of a government minister just sort of strutting down the road and expecting maybe a red carpet to be rolled out for her.
I heard about the protests through a comment on Facebook. I think it was posted half an hour before I'd come over.
It was a very genuine outpouring from people, you know. It was a real, this was at the very height of the water charges campaign. It was at the You know, there was the role the Labour Party had played. It was John Borton's particular role in social welfare. It all came out on that day.
Water charges 238 if Fine Gael got into government on its own.
The government were going on about a recovery, but there wasn't a recovery scene up here or in any of the other areas that had like working class people or anything in it. So I thought it was a good opportunity to let Joan know that people weren't happy with what was going on. I thought she had a cheek coming up to Jobstown.
I heard about it Friday evening. There was a protest tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock outside on Cusson, and Joan Borton was going to be there. That's when I heard that Joan Borton, and it was one of the students that was to get the diploma that day. So they didn't want her to give the diploma, and that's why they rang around.
Joan was in on Cusson, and we heard that she was in there because there was people inaugurating, they were getting their degree certs, and that's what she was there for. And we didn't want to interfere with that, but we still wanted to get a point across.
They came out of the gates, so we clapped them and they waved at us and they walked up to the church. And Joan came out then after, and of course the crowd walked behind her, some of them got in front of her, and that's when she got the bang of the water bloom.
So this area here, St Thomas's Church, was the first real main point of protest on the morning in question. That's the area where John Borton went after the ceremony. That's the area of where the protest escalated, in the sense that Gardaí reacted, just had the impact of setting a determined mood amongst protesters that they weren't going to be bullied.
So she got into the car and anyway, and people were surrounded the car. Now the police had surrounded the car as well. They sat behind to protest. That's it. Nothing more, nothing sinister, nothing bad about it. If you're going on a protest and something happens and you delay somebody, maybe for a while, a little while, that's your protest.
Because she was sitting in her car grinning at people. So at no point did I see that she was terrified in any respect. When Catherine Sapona approached me about moving people on, I told her that nobody had any intention of hurting the woman, that they just wanted to get their point across. Trying to get her to listen to people, what was going on in people's lives. And she just didn't care, basically. She didn't care.
The only time things really got violent was when the guards started to drag people. That's when it really, I felt a bit nervous myself then. That's the only time it really got a bit hyped up then. People didn't like that. Women getting dragged and children getting pushed around, mostly by guards.
I was sitting behind the back of the car myself with some other women, and a couple of men were there. The police, they grew and grew. They came onto the premises and surrounded the car that Joan Borton was in. We were all sitting down. There was a great atmosphere. There was a great buzz. People were coming together. They were sharing experiences on how the crash had affected them, and they started to pull Paul Murphy up. It got so bad that at one stage Paul's face was actually turning red because they were pulling his clothes from him, and another woman leaned in and loosened his top, and the guards took it off. Then he was left on the ground then naked from the top up. People got very annoyed at this. He was a public representative on the ground being manhandled by guards while Joan Borton is sitting in the car behind him smiling out at him. I think this infuriated people.
I literally had to pull down the zip on his top because he was choking. The police were literally choking him. He was gone purple. Nobody had intentions of keeping her there for hours or anything like it. It was just initial, we'll just sit down and protest. We weren't probably even planning on staying there that long until the police start roughing people up, pushing people around.
That's a TD you're mishandling there.
They brought a Garda Jeep into the car park of the church, and at that stage there was enough Garda for them to line up, you know, to make an alleyway for her to walk in. And so they walked her from her ministerial car down to the Jeep, which was parked at the bottom of the building. Got her into the Jeep. So people did run out onto the main road. People did run to block the double gates to stop the Jeep from going out.
There was no hard kind of tactics or whatever being used. It was just people standing there and conversing, and there was a car that was held in the road. And the Garda chief was saying they needed to move the protest, like get it to a conclusion and move away. So Paul had said, right, I'm going to ask the crowd, using the megaphone, in a democratic format.
There was various different orders in terms of votes which were put to the crowd. So I think it may have been Paul Murphy had put the first vote to the crowd, asking people in terms of, have we in terms of expressed our opinion of issue where about. People were obviously very angry. She was laughing in the back of the car. She was taking photos. And obviously that vote was defeated, and we managed in terms of that we would remain on the Fortunestown Road for that little bit longer. What was previously done with water meter installations, where a precedent being set with local guards, where there was an agreement to give to basically slow march her out of the area, and that was done. I think it was done with a superintendent or a chief superintendent. Paul Murphy, I believe, was in discussions with him, and that was agreed. That took place for maybe 15-20 minutes.
When the riot police did come in, everybody got a fright. We all thought they were just going to start lashing into us, to be honest, and we were saying just sit down, maybe be more protected if we sat down.
There was an agreement done that basically she would be slow marched out of the area if they were put away.
I never thought she was in danger, never once. I wouldn't like to see a woman put in danger like that. I never thought that.
I don't think anyone sat down for a confrontation now, because it was just, I've been at a few protests in my time, like, and it was as normal as any other protest, like, you know. And I think the amount of police and stuff that came there, like, you know, I saw bigger protests and they were never highlighted by the media, and they were never on the 6 News first thing, the main item.
And if she was fearful, she is a very, very, very good actress, because she was smiling, she was on her phone. I think it was actually the Irish Times she was reading. She actually at some stages was looking as if she just had contempt for us. Fear? No. There was no fear.
When I was there at first, there was maybe 6 or 7 policemen, and then more came, and there could have been 20, 30. Then more came. I think in the end, I heard it was over 120 altogether, you know. So there was a large number of police there, you know. And that's what I'm saying. I can't understand how you can kidnap someone with 100 policemen there and probably 20 or 30 around their car. I can't understand that. And 120 policemen looking while you're kidnapping someone.
Just because we're from Jobstown, we're a mob. Do you know what I mean? So if we were protesting in Castleknock, would we be a mob? They're trying to tarnish Jobstown. They're more or less trying to make out that we're a shower of Neanderthals that have no education, have no hope, and just don't care about society.
I was actually arrested in this very room. They handcuffed me here.
There was a knock on the door, 6:20 in the morning. 6 detectives, armed detectives, came into the house. But I have a big Akita dog, so they wouldn't come in. For the children, that was horrible. My neighbour witnessed them being taken into a detective car. Like, she's like, what's that all about? And I said, for protesting. She was like, what? You serious? For protesting?
I think there was 4 policemen and 2 sitting down the road in the car, like, you know, and I think that was a bit unnecessary. Like, well, I think I had my 2-year sentence done. Like, you know, I've been in court 15 times now or something like that.
We were in Italy on holidays. Extended family, we were out having a meal, and next of all my phone just lit up. I just started texting and hopping and buzzing, and so basically had been leaked to RTE. That was early August. It was a month later before we were charged with anything. And for that month, it was talked about widely in the media. Preparing the ground, obviously, for these charges.
2 minutes before the 6-1 news, I had a missed call on my phone, listened to the voicemail, and it was Paul Reynolds of RTE, the Chief Crimes Correspondent, leaving me a message that myself, Mick Murphy and Paul Murphy were to be charged with the false imprisonment of John Burton and Karen O'Connell, which I just thought was remarkable, you know.
Well, it's not nice, you know. All the people on these charges are family people. They're not criminals, they're not gangsters. They all have families, they work. They're just normal people from Tallaght that was protesting, you know. And to be brought before the courts on serious charges like this and have the state coming down as hard as they can on top of you. And decent families that doesn't get into trouble. Just standing up for their rights. It's wrong. And I never thought I'd see the day that this state would do that to the people of this country.
People just felt that this was a time for, it was a time for protest. It was a time to show the government we're not going to be pushed around anymore. People still had it in their heads about the water charges, but they also had it in their head about what was going on with the likes of the banks.
Even that night, that Saturday night then, you could see on the news, you could see the anger that the establishment had against the people of Jobstown.
I think that it's anti-democratic to try to block somebody, to try to trap somebody in their car, to try to stop them going about their business. I don't think that's consistent with the principles of democracy.
Nip that in the bud. If not, we're facing what is potentially a nicer situation in the Middle East if those people are allowed to get on with it, to do what they're doing.
And can I ask the Taoiseach, will it include any provisions in relation to political policing? And does he think that's necessary?
Well, that we can't deal with
in the context of the use of Garda resources, significant Garda resources, to terrorise a working class community at the moment, in a context when Deputy, 4 people were arrested this morning, 4 people were arrested yesterday.
Sorry, Deputy, please respect others who are waiting.
It was like we had come out of the box and we shouldn't have done that. We shouldn't have upset the apple cart. It should have been a nice photo op for Joan to be able to put in the papers on a Sunday morning.
It wasn't entirely unexpected. And not so much, I think, because of anything that happened on that day, but because of what was going on in the water charges movement. Actually, around that time in February when we were arrested, the registration figures came out and they were visibly low. And we just thought, connected to that campaign and trying to break that campaign, that they may well do something. Yeah, when you see, you know, if you're on the protest and you saw what happened, and then the questioning, and then the way we were arrested, and then the way it was leaked, and the extent and the kind of orchestrated nature of it, and the different arms of the state involved, including the likes of the media.
And basically what that campaign is about doing is in terms of sending the message, in terms of challenging this, defending that right to protest. Ultimately it's about the 3 different trials here which will take place. Obviously the 4-7 are up here on April 24th. The others are up then in October, and then there'll be a trial then in early 2018.
There could be a hidden agenda behind the whole thing, like, you know, it was more than just about arresting protesters, like it was to deny people the right to protest. I think it's to stop people protesting, so the government will be able to do whatever they want.
This would be a line in the sand for me. If this is put forward as kind of a criminal offence to protest, then we're all in trouble. Then democracy's in trouble.
The fact that people have been charged with false imprisonment in a situation where someone was held up in her car for a couple of hours is a really important marker legally in the way we deal with protest. So this is a very peculiar and particular attack on the right to protest by using such a serious charge against defendants in such a relatively trivial case of civil disobedience. The purpose, of course, is to stop people acting like that in future. And of course, as well, in tying up people in the judicial system for years, it's to soften their cough, to keep them away from doing actions like that again.
What we've got to defend, and absolutely defend to the limit, is our right to protest. If we give up the right to protest, we give up our right to have any strength in fighting back against the attacks on working people. So Unite is absolutely 100% committed to defending our right to protest.
Sit-down protests are an established form of protest in this country, engaged in by many different layers of society. From the Long March of Farmers in 1966 and the protests of the Civil Rights Movement in the North in the 1960s, to more recent examples, like when the students at UCD blocked Charles Haughey's car in 1989, to protesting against Brian Lenihan's visit to the same college in 2008, or of course, the major struggle of the people of Rossport against Shell, which included sit-down protests like this.
Protesters faced trumped-up charges of false imprisonment and violent disorder. A small protest of dozens quickly became a major protest of hundreds when Joan Burton came into the community and the Gardaí intervened in a very heavy-handed manner. In these circumstances, it was the community itself that ensured the protest passed off with no major incidents by deciding democratically how it would be conducted.
I've seen it in black and white. You know, you are allowed to sit on public roads. So if something is for, you know, social change and for positive social change, and the reasons they are behind it are kind of like valid reasons, and you haven't physically harmed anybody, you know, that's a peaceful protest.
Some incidents which happened in Jobstown in the context of a heavy presence of the Gardaí long after the protest had finished were continually and wrongfully portrayed in the media as being part of the protest. The first sit-down protest started not long after 1 o'clock, and by 3:30 Joan Burton was being driven out of the area in a Garda car. In essence, that was it. Joan Burton's car was delayed for 2.5 hours. It's disgraceful that ordinary working people who didn't cause the crisis but were made pay for it are now being victimised because they had the temerity to stand up, to fight back and to protest. Is any of this democratic or just? Or is it the same unaccountable perversion of justice that the Gardaí have used against whistleblowers, including Maurice McCabe, Dave Taylor and in other instances?